Here we are live. Welcome everybody. If you are here early, thank you for joining us early. If you're not here, where are you? We'll give you 90 seconds to join and then we'll get started. In the meanwhile, I will try and fill that space like I always try to, and try and stop everything from going crazy. So that is going on aeroplane mode, and I'm closing down everything else. There we go. But yeah, I'm nicely joined by Ashwin, Dr. Ashwin. Do you want to be called Dr. Ash, or do you just okay with me calling you Ash?
Call me Ash, it's fine. Yeah.
It feels weird. I mean, obviously, I'm not a doctor, and I feel like it could be a massive insult by just calling you Ash. But it does feel weird to say Dr. Ash or Dr. Ashwin.
Interestingly, this is different in different parts of the world. And earlier this year, I spoke in the US, probably a couple of weeks ago. And the culture there seems to be very much to say doctor and surname for everybody. So it's nice. And when you're in Rome, do what the Romans do, right?
Yeah. I think if I was to introduce you properly, I'd say Dr. Ashwin Mehta. But now in a conversation, it just would feel weird to say Dr. Ashwin Mehta. Sure. Could you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Call me Ash. It's fine.
Yeah, we're good. Everybody else, look, it's 90 seconds, so we'll get started in a second. But if you are here listening already, thank you for joining. Please get involved, get in the comments, say hello, tell us where you are, and who you are as well. And if you have any questions throughout this, please ask. I always say that your questions are going to be better than mine because they'll be focused specifically to the challenge or a problem you may have. And so I think that's always a better question than mine, which is always going to be about awareness and trying to understand these education from Ash, I guess, and from the guests. So please do get involved, and the more involvement, the better. But I'm happy and I feel very honoured to have Dr. Ashwin Mehta here with us today to talk about the future of work. And the concept of AI, humans versus machines, and what that looks like potentially for us going forward, and how we optimize our opportunity here, and hopefully use that opportunity rather than the situation from a negative standpoint. I first met Ash. I heard him speak at Mad World, where I thought Ash was an incredible public speaker who disrupted this way of thinking, and I'm really excited to have that view today. I've obviously had a couple more meetings with Ash and understand some of his processes, although I don't think I'm ever going to understand Ash's brain in the full way it works. But if I can get some of that for you guys to listen to, then I'm really excited. Ash, rather than me butchering your introduction, can I throw that over to you for you to introduce yourself to everybody listening?
Sure. Hey everybody, if you're joining us, thank you for being here, and it's a pleasure to be talking with you, at you, or from you, or on you. I don't know. But it's my introduction. So Dr. Ashwin Mehta, I'm the CEO of Mehtadology, which is an AI and tech consulting business. I have multiple years of experience in learning and human capital, as well as a 25-year career covering hard sciences and statistics as well. 2 master's degrees and a PhD, and what the company does is end-to-end consulting. So that's everything from speeches, boot camps, and masterclasses and briefings, through consulting, getting your company, if that's what you choose, getting your company on the right path towards realizing the value from artificial intelligence and the Agentic Revolution, all the way through to developing, deploying, helping you select from the market, and getting your data right. These are basically the key things. Many pillars of readiness, which you can have a look at on the website, Mehtadology.com. But that's pretty much my introduction.
Amazing. I want to start just with this Agentic Revolution and just understand what that means to start with. Because it's probably a word that a lot of people don't really know and understand.
Yeah, so if we go back a little bit, so we had traditional AI before, which was machine learning and things like that. And a few years ago, we all got, enraptured by the GPT. So we were talking to a chatbot that gave us something that was very similar to what a human conversation would be if it was in the text format. So it seemed like it was very human in its response, but it was still pattern recognition and applied to the language context. And that's why we have large language models.
Mhm.
Over time, we've had the generative AI piece. Now, most of the generative AI piece has been basically what most companies have done, what most people have done is had this narrative, which is around AI is there to augment people and AI is a tool for people to use. And we talk about things like adoption. So adoption is when people are clicking through a particular tool. And most of what's gone on for the last couple of years, from 23 to probably mid 25, was this concept that people are going to go to an interface, a browser. They're going to open a tool. They're going to subscribe to a tool. They're going to type something in as a request, get that response back, and then the person, rather than the machine, the person will take that response, hopefully read it and understand it, most likely not. Just take it, copy and paste it, and use it in some other tool, which will give some other functionality. And this gives rise to things like, well, we take a prompt from one thing and we put it into an image generator, and we get a picture, and then we paste that into whatever, LinkedIn or Instagram. And we have these kinds of things where we have one generative tool, another generative tool, a third generative tool, and people are using those tools to basically navigate between particular bits of software. So that's the AI software as a service kind of mentality that's been with us for the last couple of years. In the software as a service piece, it's the human that's doing all the execution of activities, the execution of tasks is all done by the human. You ask something to generate something, you ask an AI tool to generate something, and then you take that generation and you go and use it. And that's the AI revolution. Now, the agentic revolution is very different, because in that space, what we're learning and what we're seeing in the market and what we're able to use is that we have entities, doesn't matter what they are, let me just call them entities, that can take actions within other software tools by themselves without necessarily needing humans to oversee, without necessarily needing humans to make the decision. You could just give it an output. Say, I want this as an outcome, or I want this as an output. Go make it happen. Use whatever tools you have available to you, and these things will just happen. That is the agentic space. And before that, we have kind of an orchestration space where you can use automations and workflows. So we have this trajectory of a revolution. Now, the agentic revolution is now we have machines that have the capability to do multiple things that previously we thought were basically the domain of people. And that's the revolution that's upon us.
Could you give me an example of a workflow or an agentic system so people can understand, see it in real life?
Yeah, so let's take the example of marketing, which I've just given, I've just touched upon, right? So we might say, go back 5 years, we might say, I'm going to post on LinkedIn. What am I going to do? Well, I've got a thought, and obviously my thoughts are more precious than everybody else's, so they need to be shared. And this is the social media mentality. But I will have a thought, and that thought needs to be articulated in some way. And I'm going to type some text, and I'm going to go to the LinkedIn application, which may be a desktop app. It might be on my phone. It might be in a browser. I'm going to go to that, open up the piece that says I'm going to make a new post, type in my thing, and then I'm going to hit the button, and it's going to be posted to my adoring legions of fans. And that's what we used to do 5 years ago. As time goes by, we say, well, you know what? I don't just want every thought that passes through my brain to be articulated in a manual way like this. So the AI software as a service piece that I said I'm going to use something to generate, now LinkedIn has a generate with AI button. Or you can go to one of the AI tools. Two of them I'm not going to name for reasons, but things like Gemini and Claude. You might go to those tools and say, you know what, write me a LinkedIn post. Here's my idea, but write me a LinkedIn post. And already you have the power in those models to say, write one that is optimized for virality, optimized for search engine, use. Any of these things. You're still working back and forth with an AI in terms of a software as a service kind of model. The agentic space is slightly different because what I could say now is I have an agent that is my LinkedIn manager. Coordinate my campaign. Here's a bunch of thoughts that I've had. Make the right posts. And not only make them, but post them. So now I have a thought. I have 10 thoughts. I just dump those thoughts into, a Google Sheet or some kind of database or voice agent or whatever I'm using. By that simple action, we could have an agent that decides this needs to be a text post, this needs to be a carousel, this needs to be an image, this would be better suited to being a video. I'm going to call the resources that will allow me to generate an image, that will allow me to generate a video, which is a realistic avatar of Ash with his voice and everything. And I'm going to generate that as a video. Or this needs to be a cinematic experience similar to what you would see from Hollywood. I'm going to generate that as a video. And you know what? I've just generated 4 things. So I'm going to post those things, not today, not tomorrow, but I'm going to have a cadence of posting that lasts a week from all of these different things that came from these 10 ideas. And I'm going to orchestrate that entire thing because I have the APIs to do so. I have the resources to do so. I have the reasoning capability. I have the image generation within the structures that I have access to. And that's an important point because you need to build the structures for your agents to call resources. But basically, we have machine capability that could do that rather than just help me write a post. That's the difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just yeah. Now you've got one prompt, which is essentially an output or the outcome, right? You put one thing into that and it just does everything for you rather than you having to do. But pre 5 years ago, it says pre AI, pre-COVID, where you'd have to do it all yourself. AI then come in, you used AI, and now here's the output I want. This is my thought. Go and do your own thing, and it does everything for you. And potentially, probably, and you tell me if I'm wrong here. Once it's done that, it can probably just keep doing it on a loop on the different topics from there.
Yeah, so let's take it a step further, right? I've assumed that I have ideas because, we are both reasonably intelligent people and we have ideas, right? Let's try and differentiate ourselves from people who are not reasonably intelligent and don't have ideas, because those people exist as well. Now, if they had the capability, they probably do, because the barrier to entry now is just, do you have a credit card with $20 on it? If you can do that, you can go buy your way into a service. If you could buy your way into a service, what if we were just to say, you know what, I don't really need ideas. Here's a bunch of YouTube channels that I follow. Here's a bunch of Instagram channels that I follow. Here's a bunch of LinkedIn influencers that I follow. I get my news feed, whatever it is. Just scrape all of that on a daily basis to find the best ideas for virality. And then make the posts and post them as if they were my own. We can do that as well, right? I prefer not to do that because I like my original thoughts to be the thing that I disseminate. But there are others who maybe, I'm not accusing anybody, but maybe people would do that if they knew they had access to this kind of thing. That opens up opportunity and it opens up risk, because now we have the deluge of information, the floodgates have opened, and basically everything that we see online is regurgitation of something else. We also have the leveling of the playing field, where it's difficult to distinguish between somebody who knows what they're doing and somebody who's just purchased their way into a scraper. One of these systems that does something like this. And we also have the opportunity, because the opportunity side of things is that we could orchestrate, if you're in a big business, you could orchestrate an entire department based on the workflows, the outputs, and the outcomes that you want from that department, which means that people need to be doing different things, right? Because what I earlier said, I've got an idea, dear AI thing, can you go and make this idea for me and make a posting cadence to go and tell the world about my idea? Apply that to any department in any business. And now you have the capability of the machine, but the person needs to be able to orchestrate, to give those ideas, to set direction, to set vision, and to make sure that the team of synthetic workers is actually mobilizing towards that vision. So we have opportunity there, but the role of the human does change.
And this is what you've done, right? Within your businesses.
Yeah, so I stated very boldly last year, January last year, I was on stage in the US, and I just stated boldly, you know what, I want a 50-person business with no people. And really, I had no basis for picking the number 50. I just thought, it's a round number, it will be fine. And and yeah, so I spent most of last year doing that, building it, making it happen. And I started off with the concept of this was going to be a number of workflows with decision points. Doing that led me down this path of orchestration, agentic workflows, and now we're in the world of agents. But yeah, mostly I was making sure that every, and this is going to sound weird, but if you're listening, challenge me if you want. Every one of the little processes, the little things that you do that sucks the time out of your day that you just didn't want to do. I don't want to do those things. I want a machine to go and do those things. So how can I orchestrate? How can I build a process that is repeatable, reliable, and works every single time to do that thing, that one thing? And then I need to understand the relationships between that thing and everything around it. Because if I have one process that is now producing a reliable output on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever it happens to be, what about all the other processes around it? So that odyssey, that journey took, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or something, just to orchestrate a whole business. And I came up with the idea of having departments that work together, and having a department in a box, and having an agent, and having an agent squad over time. And now in this modern age, let's say from November onwards, probably, we have lots of agentic capability in the tech space, which means the barrier to entry is lower and people can go and do this. But people can only do it if they understand what they're trying to achieve.
And that's where you come in. That's where you come in.
I mean, potentially, right? If I would challenge back and say, if somebody's running a department in a business and doesn't understand what that department does, then probably they're not the right person for that job. But it's down to every department leader. If you're leading marketing, learning, HR, sales, doesn't matter what you're leading, or you're leading a small business, you should know what you do. There's a thing that you do that sets you apart from anybody else. That's the magic of you, the magic of your department. And there are a bunch of processes that make that happen. Those processes can be automated. I can obviously support with that, but I would say that it's incumbent on the individual to understand the thing that they do for a living.
Yeah, and this is where the scarcity, is that the right word? The people being scared is coming from, right? Because
fear.
yeah, it's where the fear is coming. That's where the fear is coming from when it comes to the future of work.
So the fear from the future of work, I think, arises from a bunch of different factors. So if we take some of these things, the history of knowledge work has always been perceived as, ever since it started, has been perceived as the safe haven, right? If you think back to previous iterations of industrial revolutions, it was always thought blue collar workers, manual laborers, they're the ones that will be, automated by the upper middle or the middle class of knowledge workers. And the fear in this particular wave of revolution, nobody ever thought that knowledge workers would be replaceable. That's now a thing. So many folks in, let's go with the last 30, 40, 50 years, so many people have been in big businesses and they've coasted. They've gone from role to role to role. They've just moved around the business without necessarily having exposure to the outside world, without necessarily having exposure to ideas or the way things can be done. And they basically move within a social or a political environment. Those people also, now they're scared for their jobs because they didn't really add value anyway. Let's face it. Now they go, oh, the whole world is now talking about skills and outputs. I need to be able to do something. I need to have a skill, or I need to go and be able to produce an output or an outcome. And if any of you watching, if any of you have worked in a large business, you will know there are not only people, there are whole departments, whole divisions that basically don't do anything, where people just talk to each other on a daily basis about their internal politics. That's bureaucracy of a big business. That's the nature of a big business, right? They have systems in place that serve an operating model that is based on resource utilization. We have this many people, we need to make sure they are busy all the time. And that's what's changing. What's changing in this current system is we're talking about the cost of productivity, not the cost of resource utilization. And this has people scared. It has people scared for a good reason, because people are questioning whether or not they're actually being productive. That's a good thing for me. So that's partly where the fear comes from. The other side of the fear, I have lots of people asking me about this thing, and that is, well, what about the future? Are we moving towards a space where humans basically don't have a role? They don't have a purpose. We can't articulate what that is. And I've said this on a couple of podcasts. I've got a paper coming out which talks about this in a 3x3 matrix. But effectively, we have issues, risks, whatever we're going to call them, that are at an individual level or an organizational level or a societal level. Whenever we have individuals, because you talked about, people are scared about their jobs. Individuals are fearful for whether or not they will be employable or employed. They're two separate things. Within the near future by an organization. Organizations are fearful for whether or not they have competitive advantage sufficient that they will last in the market and continue to be able to make revenue. Society, to some degree, is fearful about what the big picture, the future of human beings at work and what that looks like. But the entire debate is confused. And the reason that this debate is confused is individuals will talk about their fearfulness on an individual organization basis by using societal language, by using societal debate. Organizations, frankly, exist to make revenue. We saw this week that I think it was Jack Dorsey who's announced, 4,000 of my 10,000 workforce are going to go. And I think Amazon also announced many thousands of people were going to be laid off. These are things that are happening at an organizational level because an organization needs or doesn't need human capital alongside financial capital, technical capital, etc., etc. So the organizations are going to make decisions based on their shareholders, their revenue, their existence, their reason for moving on, their vision, their mission, and all of these things. But for people in an organization to then talk about societal impact as a reason for making organizational decisions about individuals isn't correct, right? And that's going to lead you down a path of having really interesting debates about ethics and society and the 4-day working week and the future of work. But it's not going to be meaningful in an organizational context. People in organizations need to be able to make decisions over the things that they can control in their organization. So that's why I feel that this debate sometimes gets a little bit confused.
Yeah, and you can see why. Because there's a few different big things at play. What?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are I'm working with somebody at the moment on a paper on things like the environmental impact, data centers, cooling, energetics, all of that kind of thing. And we frequently have these fairly robust debates around whether or not organizations, when organizations which are observant of things like net zero and things like their carbon footprint and all of this stuff, really have too much of a choice when it comes to, I'm going to choose a Copilot or a GPT or a Gemini or a Claude as the basis of AI in my organization, and I'm going to make sure that everybody uses that one. They're all basically trained in the same way. Model energetics are the same, training energetics, data center energetics. It's all basically the same stuff. You're just choosing a provider, and you have no say as an organization that's using one of these models as to, you can choose whether or not you're going to go to the US or China. You can choose whether you're going to choose Gemini or Claude, but do you have any say over the energetics of any of this stuff? Not really. So how useful is it to obsess about that if you're in an organization? If you're in a government, you need to know that stuff, because choice of how many data centers you build versus AI sovereignty. These are things that governments and societies grapple with. They're not things that organizations grapple with. So these kind of debates are interesting, but it's important to get the level correct.
Yeah. And so then let's think about the level we're talking now, but people are interested in is in the individual, right? I remember when we met the first time, not at MAD, but on a one-to-one, you said something about that AI models are now performing at a PhD level, right? Have that capability at a PhD level. What does that mean for the average worker? And how do we compete against that?
So let's define a few things in that statement. So the first thing is the average worker. The average worker, we need to be establishing what that is. Usually that's going to be a mean point in a normal distribution. Top performers, low performers, there's going to be a mean. There's going to be one standard deviation, two standard deviations from the mean. When we measure a particular attribute, that attribute could be a lot of things. It could be height, it could be weight, it could be capacity for critical thinking, it could be ability to problem solve, whatever it happens to be. We're going to have some kind of quantitative measure, and we're going to have a distribution of people along that particular curve. In many cases, we have reasoning capability of frontier models. So I'm saying that very deliberately, but the reasoning capability of frontier models. So this is now at the time of us having this conversation, we're talking about the GPT 5.3, the Gemini 3.1, the Opus or Sonnet 4.6, these kinds of things. Their capabilities across some of these different attributes is greater than the mean. So the mean in the population, the average IQ across the world is something like 100. We have people out there who have an IQ in excess of 100, and we have people out there who have an IQ less than that. The same can be a reasoning model can be plotted on the same curve, and in many attributes it will be much greater than the mean. In fact, it will be operating famously. Many of the model manufacturers out there will say that they're operating at the level of a PhD candidate or beyond. There are many attributes that lead to that, the access to data, the reasoning capability, the ability to solve mathematically for problems. So all of these things are there. Now, what is that's just the definition of the statement. What does that actually mean for workers? Well, for a long time, as I said earlier, people in their capabilities are normally distributed. We have many people who are going to be at the mean right now, and no amount, this is the critical piece, no amount of quote unquote upskilling is going to get them to the level of the machine. The machines keep evolving, right? I'm not talking about evolution in the selection bias kind of sense. So the machines keep moving forward. People, let's face it, have been basically static for a couple of thousand years. So are we really expecting that people's capability is going to improve significantly? Are we going to expect a significant shift in the mean? I don't think we are, because people are people. So mostly the population is going to be like that. And that means we have a couple of choices. Either those people need to do something else which people can do and machines can't do. Or those people at some point will no longer be in the workforce. Right? It's fairly, I've broken it down fairly logically. It's going to be one of these two things. Now, point A, so people are going to do something that people are uniquely suited to. What are people uniquely suited to? Because this is the debate that we've been having for a couple of years. People are not, I can't stress this enough. If you're watching this, challenge in the comments. I can't stress this enough. That people are not uniquely suited to problem solving, to critical thinking, even to judgment. Because those are things that we can break down into effectively decision trees. People not uniquely suited to those things. So what are people uniquely suited to? So we could argue empathy. How many of you out there, how many people who are watching this, or how many news reports have we seen on people who are using some of these AI models as a therapist, as a talking companion, as a coach, as a mentor? These are not things that are uniquely human. Many of the reports are that people are getting better results from the machine than they are from people. So what do people uniquely do? Well, we are carbon-based life forms that go around eating things and, not to be political, making wars with each other and all of these things. So what are we actually uniquely suited to do? And this is the question of our age, because generally speaking, we don't do anything better than machines can do. Is it likely in a capitalist model that our capitalist overlords are likely to want to use the machine capability for productivity, for wealth, for growth, for economic benefit in a way that basically leaves the working population behind? This isn't more of an ethical question at a societal level, but it seems to me fairly obvious that, if big systems, I'm not naming people or organizations or anything, but if big systems can get productivity at low cost, then why wouldn't they do that? This is the history of the world. People have always made decisions like this. So we have this dilemma, right? And this dilemma moves us towards a future of work where we either have people who are shifting role into something that is uniquely human, or we have a smaller subset of people who are setting direction and vision and working with primarily synthetic workforces to carry much of the economic growth and GDP, when everybody else is basically able to, in an ideal world, able to live off that created GDP.
I hear that the issue here is, what are humans uniquely good at doing? I still don't think we've answered, what are we uniquely physical labor?
Well, let's move away from AI and talk about robotics.
Okay.
All right, robotics are it's a field of machinery that is potentially AI capable, and in the robotics space, could we have a robot that digs a hole in the ground with less effort, with less cost than a person would dig a hole? A lot of this is going to be very dependent on local context, right? So if the hole is difficult to get to, and it happens to have a shovel nearby, and it's probably quicker just to pick up the shovel and dig the hole. But if we're talking about en masse, we're talking about at scale, we want 10,000 holes to be dug on a level playing field, we're going to employ robotics, right? So it's not an AI question, it's a robotics question. And we know the robotics piece is becoming more popular as we start to move in conversion. I think NVIDIA, the CEO of NVIDIA, put this up on a slide at some point, the convergence from software AI towards physical AI. So that's the robotics angle. Yeah, we need to consider those things. If we are talking about manual efforts, manual labor. Are humans uniquely suited to do that? Tell me, what do you think?
I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Depends on time, location, size. This is probably the biggest challenge, right? This is why people are scared, or have that fear, is that if everything's potentially replaceable, where do we fit in?
Yeah, and my answer to the question is, you need to be honest with yourselves about whether or not you add value. Many people have coasted for many years in jobs where they did very little. Those people should rightly be scared, and it's not an AI question. They should be scared of not adding value and looking for purpose and trying to add value. That's just my perception, and that's the way I see it. Where do humans add value in systems? Well, we direct and guide and build the systems. And that's something that humans do, right? And that's been true probably forever. So can we in the future, as humans, be able to build, direct, and guide systems? Now, we have two options there. One is we keep the working population pretty much at the level that it is, but everybody is guiding systems, and therefore our outputs and outcomes drastically increase because of the capabilities that we have. Or we go the other way. We keep basically outputs and outcomes at a similar level, but we reduce the working population. Both of those are potential things that we would do, but I think it is going to be about the guiding, vision, building, of reproducible systems. And some of those could be, semi-organic systems as well. Let's not forget that these things can also happen.
Yeah. I don't know where to go from there. So I'm going to go back into the workplace because my head's in 1,000 pieces now.
Look, talk to me about one of those pieces. What's concerning you the most about what I just said?
I think it's just knowing. I think from a lot of people, and what I hear from a lot of people. Obviously, I'm not in an organisation, run my own business, and I guess I'm potentially replaceable. Like you're seeing it as a coach, people are using, as you said, are using coaches or therapists to do that, and so yes, I have to be kind of cautious, but I still think I have value within that. And some of that is fallibility, some of that is empathy, some of that is human accountability from a coaching standpoint. But it's it more from from listening to the ground kind of thing. People are scared of their roles and not having jobs and being replaced by AI. And I think I think you've just covered that really well. And
so let's evolve that a little bit from what you just said, right? Because what you just said is, on the coaching space, the human side of things, the infallibility, the imperfection, the personal touch, all of this stuff is the value that you place, the value maybe the market places on human contact, human relationship as a luxury product. So we have that. Now already we have scarcity in that respect because we don't look at us right now. We're not face to face looking each other in the eye in a room, time and space event together. We're doing this online. We don't know how many people are watching this online, but the people who are watching this online, they haven't carved out time and space to have this conversation with us. They're probably playing on their phone with another window open, answering an email while they're on a laptop or a mobile device. So we already have this dichotomy in a conversation where we say we place a value on the luxury product of human interaction, while at the same time being massively distracted by all of the devices and all of the things that we do, and placing more of a premium on those things than having the actual interaction with people. So I don't fully believe this conversation, which I hear a lot about, we're going to have a value on the human premium. But the other side of that is, if we've got lots of people who are basically, as I've said earlier in this conversation, who don't really add value. So if you're watching this and thinking I'm being unnecessarily harsh, go into any workplace, ask anybody, they will all point you to the useless worker in the corner who everybody knows doesn't do anything, right? So if we've got people like that, and those people are let go, they are laid off, they somehow don't have a job to do, what are they going to do? They're going to make this argument. They're going to say, you know what, I can come over to you and we can have a conversation. We can have a cup of coffee. I'll hold your hand. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a hug, and I'll tell you that you're the blossoming flower. You can rise to the stars, go fly and be the rainbow that you want to be. And those people are going to exist in the marketplace under the guise of the premium of human contact. So we're going to have the market is going to be flooded with people who have very low skill, but are able to convince everybody else who, I want a coach, and there's this guy over there who said he can be my coach, so I'm gonna have this guy as a coach. Qualifications that they got? Nothing. They got laid off because they weren't added value with their role, and they decided the premium needs to be from human contact, so I'm going to go be a coach. So we're going to get that kind of market dynamics happening as market dynamics are going to happen as companies decide that a technical workforce is able to do what they can do. We have an exit workforce displacement, and we're going to have people looking for something where maybe they don't always have the skill to do the thing, but they will be talking about the value of human luxury, much in the way that we see the market talking about the value of AI now. This is an AI-powered glass of water. It's going to quench my thirst like nothing else, etc., etc. We know it's basically marketing, right? So these kinds of market dynamics lead from the thing that you just said, which is, are we going to see this fear manifesting in some other kind of problem that we need to deal with? And I think that other kind of problem is going to be a surge of basically low skill labor into the into the marketplace under the guise of a luxury product.
What do you mean by luxury product, just so I'm clear there and people are clear?
So the luxury product is the human contact.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think I can understand that and see that. I was a bit kind of heartbroken when you used the term coaches, as you could tell, as a coach. But I can definitely understand that, because that's, yeah.
So you've been a coach for a while, though, right? And you've coached
I'm a qualified
teams.
coach. I've got the education. I've done all the practice, all right. But yeah, I guess.
So how do you feel, right? How do you feel about the fact that I right now could say I'm a coach and wander off into the market, maybe make a website in 5 minutes using Lovable or Replit or something, and go tell people I'm a coach and actually work, and there would be nothing stopping me from doing that compared to you who's got multiple qualifications, experience in the field, etc. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, not great, right?
So it's non-competitive, right? It's not a competitive marketplace, and that could get worse as people leave companies and decide, I don't have any skills, I'm just going to go off and do the first thing that I see. I'm going to ask ChatGPT what I should be, and ChatGPT is going to go, you know what? You could go be a trainer on a training course. You could go be a coach. That's my point.
Yeah. So then, what should people be doing then? How do people get in front of the curve here? What, from somebody who an expert in this space, what is the advice for making sure? Because not everybody can be the controller, right? Nobody will be driving that train of the agents, the direction. So what is your advice for those people who aren't going to be that person?
So the first challenge is, why not? Why can't everybody be a controller? Just because you don't have anything to control, right? So you have in your business things that you want to achieve. You have a direction that you want to set. Those are the attributes of control. You just don't have the machinery to go and to control. This kind of thing is a very easy one. So the first thing is, nobody likes it when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. First thing is, be honest with yourself. Most of us, and I've worked in big companies, I've worked in small companies, I lead my own business. Most of us have interacted with other people who will talk a big game. And, you speak to that person and they've done everything, right? They were responsible for the moon landing or whatever, right? They just go through the entirety of human history and claim credit for every last thing that's ever happened. That's fine when you're having a conversation. Your salespeople go and do this all the time. But when you're sitting in a room by yourself, be honest with yourself about what your capabilities are. Because if you don't do that, you're never going to identify the things that you need to improve. So I think that's the big message. Be honest with yourself on that. The second thing is, now that you've identified the things that you need to go and improve, there has never been a time like the present. So you have the world's biggest learning management system, YouTube, right? You can pretty much find everything for free if you really wanted to. You have all of these reasoning agents. Just go and ask one of them. Say, I want to do these things. Tell me how to do it. And it will just tell you how to do it. I'm not saying you absolutely follow everything to the letter, but it will tell you pretty much what to do. Your next step, of course, is to go and find out. So I'll give you an example. You go and say to Gemini. Let's pick Gemini because Google's a big, huge ecosystem of things. So we talk about Gemini, and you might say to Gemini, you know what, I want to build a website. Now, Gemini will probably, first of all, say, yes, that's absolutely doable. That's an amazing idea. Nobody's ever thought of it. No, it won't. It won't, because it's not ChatGPT, right? But it will say something along the lines of, here's roughly how you do it. Here is a YouTube video, because Google owns YouTube. Here's a YouTube video that describes the steps you want to take. Do you want to go any further? Should we talk in detail about each step? And it will guide you through it. And then it might say, well, go to Google's AI Studio. It might say, go to a third-party system, one of these lovable Replit kind of, vibe coding tools. It might say you need to have a developer environment, you need to open VS Code, or you need to open anti-gravity. But it will tell you those things. And then your job as an individual is to go and try those things out, and nearly all of them are free. So you can just go and do that. So now we have step by step, you've identified the things that you need to upskill on. You have done a little bit of learning and research around those things. You're working back and forth with an AI capability that's helping you to improve and brainstorming with you. And you have a bunch of free tools that allow you to go and build things. For me, there's nothing stopping everybody from getting to that point. It's free, it's available. Pretty much the only thing stopping you is your ambition. And as Rocky 3 taught us, if you don't have the eye of the tiger, you're not going to win the prize.
Yeah. And time, right? And maybe even just, I mean, this conversation's been helpful, right? The knowledge to knowing how simple that is, just to go off and just ask it that first question, I want to do this, or what can I do? It can help.
And I think the time thing is a red herring. I don't know if you follow Arnold Schwarzenegger at all, but over time, I do weights, and he's one of the godfathers of weightlifting. He said this on a clip. This thing about time. If you just get into the gym for 45 minutes, do you have 45 minutes? Most people at some point in the week, can you spare 45 minutes 3 times a week? Probably. This is the same thing, but it's quicker. So can you spare 15 minutes to go back and forth with Gemini or Claude or something similar and ask those questions, to brainstorm, to sharpen those ideas? Can you spend 15 minutes doing that? Because if you can't, then you need to think about time management as one of the first things to improve.
Yeah. And we would use that. I would use that example in exercise to most things, right? You can afford, you got 24 hours a day to your disposal. You've got 8 hours of sleep. So you've got 16 hours then to find time. You can't find half an hour or 15 minutes, as you just said, to go back and forth with that. Before I begin to ask some closing out questions, is there anything which you want to share or want people to be aware of that's going to be really helpful for them with this future of work or future AI kind of at our doorstep?
Helpful? Does it sound like I'm helpful?
It creates an awareness.
Yeah. So what can I say to be helpful around the future of work and the future of AI? So one thing that maybe people don't realize, and maybe this is helpful, is that the future of work is going to be clustering of the things that we currently perceive as jobs. So if we take the software development angle for a second, so you used to have people who do graphic design, people who do front-end UI design, people who do front-end coding, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Then you would have middleware, you would have back-end developers who deal with databases and things like that. Now, basically, you have developers. Everybody needs to do all of those things. That kind of thing is going to be the same in nearly every function. So you talk about, if we take a learning and development department in an organization, you might have somebody who stands up and delivers training based on PowerPoint. So you might have somebody else who makes e-learning courses, somebody else who manages the platform upon which e-learning courses go, somebody else who looks at the dashboards and says, you know what, we need more e-learning here or there. That's basically one person with a bunch of agents having to do all of that stuff. So we have clustering of roles. And for you, the most helpful thing for you, the audience, is think about your role, whatever it is that you do for a living, and think about the 3, 4, 5 adjacent roles to that. So if you're a marketeer that works on TikTok campaigns, you could also work on YouTube Shorts. You could also work on Instagram, right? Those are things that are very, very closely related. If you're doing front-end work and you know HTML, you should also know CSS and JavaScript, right? So you have a bunch of these things that are basically next to each other. Go and identify the adjacent skills that you need and make sure that you have a robust portfolio across the adjacency of skills that you might need if your roles were to be clustered and you needed to work with machines.
Mm-hmm. I love that piece of advice. How do companies? So that's very individual, right? What bits of advice or kind of knowledge piece could you add for like a company?
Yeah, so if you flip that the other way, so you've got companies work basically on strategy operating model. So we have a strategy, we want to go do these things that are going to support our vision, our mission, our stakeholder value, all of these things. And we have an operating model around that. The potential for agentic operating models to be very, very different to traditional operating models is going to be the big thing that you need to consider, because that is structure of a business. That's going to be one of those things that needs detailed and deliberate thought, and yet is usually the poorest child of strategy. So try and make sure that it gets the airtime that it needs.
Yeah, I love that. Look, I guess my last question for you, hopefully to bring a bit of optimism into this conversation for everybody, is
you're all doomed. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you're all doomed. No. I think actually what this conversation has done is actually create the awareness that we're not all doomed. We just have to be forward thinking in the way that we look at the world. Don't just look at AI as this is going to take everything. Actually, well, we know that AI is coming, and it's coming pretty quickly. How do we take those opportunities and guide the AI rather than let it guide us? But with that aside, with all of this in mind, what gives you optimism about for the future of work?
So the thing, and this is not only me being optimistic. For those of you who know me, of course, I'm always optimistic. You know this. The thing that gives me optimism is the future that I see is one where you can tell my age by the references that I make from movies, right? But let me just go out there and say, the kind of movies that I used to watch are the Rocky, Rambo, Predator, Commando kind of kickboxer, Universal Soldier kind of era of things.
I'm the greatest.
So that should tell you most of what I'm about to say. But the optimism part is that the future belongs to those who are hungry enough to work for it and go out and grab it by both horns and ride it into the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's never been more true than it is now. Previously, we could coast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, things are competitive. Mm-hmm. Things are more competitive than ever, and the cream will rise to the top. Mm-hmm. That is something that I love. Mm-hmm. I like that idea of I have to compete to be the best, mm-hmm. and those who aren't the best will be left behind. No more participation trophies, right? Mm-hmm. That I think that kind of generation is the previous generation. I don't know. That kind of generation is either gone or it will be ruling in the future when we have made soft times available for them again. Mm-hmm. Right now, we need to fight for what we think needs to be our future, and that's a great thing. That causes optimism for me because it means that it's in our control.
Yeah, it's empowering when you know the concept of controls, right? Know that you are in control of that destiny. You just need to know some of this stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Ash, thank you for this. As much as we are all now extremely fearful, no, I'm joking. Much as we're way more aware of this stuff, I think it's really useful. Thank you. What can people do to find you or to learn more about this and follow you and just keep up to date?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. The second part of your question. You can follow me on LinkedIn, of course. We have Instagram, post reels every day on Instagram and post regularly articles on LinkedIn. Also have Substack and Medium. So if you want to read any of the stuff, go forth onto my website if you want to download a white paper and read in detail about the Agentic Revolution, Agentic Readiness, the concept of agentic leadership or HR or any of these things, we have papers about pretty much every aspect of this. So go and have a look. There are some free apps to go and play with as well. You can contact me via the website, via LinkedIn, via any of these channels. So if you've got any questions, don't hesitate. I also have a podcast channel called AI Unleashed on Spotify. So go and listen to what these kinds of conversations are saying with other people.
Yeah, of people who understand this world a bit, maybe a bit better than I do. But I hope that's given everybody some layman's terms to this as well. But look, I think I'm excited to see what this brings for everybody. If we can grab the bull by the horns, and I appreciate your time. Ash, stay where you are. Everybody else, have a fantastic rest of the week. And reach out to Ash if you want to have any more questions answered. Otherwise, see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.